everyone, I'm Dilusha Gamage and I welcome all of you to Ambeon Insights Season 2. Entrepreneurship is a journey with endless challenges and unwavering resilience and unshakable vision. Only a few thrive in this space. Just imagine the audacity it takes to turn a simple idea into a viable business and then scale it up as a public listed company and then elevate it as a global powerhouse. Well, in Sri Lanka, such stories are rare. Today, we are privileged to celebrate one such journeys. And the company I'm referring to is JAT Holdings PLC. And the visionary behind this remarkable success is none other than Mr. Aelian Gunawardene. Aelian, welcome to Ambeon Insights.
Thank you, Dilusha. It's a pleasure to be here.
Aelian, so to start off the discussion, let's see it now. You have started JAT Holdings in 1993 and you were thriving in the corporate world. So what made you to move into entrepreneurship? What made that difference for you?
I wouldn't call it thriving in the corporate world because I was only 25 when I moved out.
Okay.
I was a marketing manager at a company called Delmage Paints at that time. Still very young, naive to a certain extent, and married, 2 kids. Oh. So a lot of responsibilities, even though I was only 25, 26.
Right.
But at that point was when I wanted to actually introduce the best wood coatings into the Sri Lankan market. And to do that, I did whatever research I could. There was no internet at that time, I believe, and sort of proposed to the management of the company that we should be looking at a different range of product than what we were selling, or even better range of product. And that's when this whole idea came about. And what happened was with that, promoting it to the hierarchy of Delmage, over months and months, and these are old companies, 150-year-old companies. Taking decisions were very, very slow, not the kind of pace that I was used to or wanted. Mm-hmm. And at that time, it came to a point where it was either we don't do it or I do it.
That was the tipping point.
It was the tipping
point. And you decided to do it yourself.
Yes.
All right. And Aelian, in that case, so what are the values that taken you so far? Now, you have been an entrepreneur for 3 decades and you have built a very successful business. So what do you think as your personal values which made you an entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur?
See, it's funny how, over the years, we've changed our logo, the JAT logo, at least 4 times. Okay. One thing that didn't change in these 4 years was the values that we had. Customer service has been very, very important for us. Innovation has been very important to us. Leadership at all levels has been really important. These are all listed out as our values. And for me, understanding that there was a requirement for a product in the market which the Sri Lankan products was not servicing, but then that I had the drive to be able to fulfill this requirement or this demand was something that sort of drove me. As long as there was a requirement, I knew I had the drive and the willingness to really work hard to achieve that, and then to make sure that we were able to fulfill this demand and convert a market from a regular nitrocellulose based market to a polyurethane, and from there to a water based, and just innovate all the time was something that sort of drove me, or was one of our biggest values.
The continuous innovation.
Continuous innovation has been one thing that we've strived to achieve.
And I believe you are very concerned or very caring about your employees as well. That is something that I have seen in JAT. So how does that has helped you so far?
Yeah, I mean, from day one, when we had just 2 employees, is to always give them a free lunch, at home, when we had our office at home or wherever we had it. And even today, when we have 500 employees, it's the same thing.
Oh, free lunch for everybody.
Yeah, everybody gets
I think that's a very good company to work for.
Yeah, nice buffet lunch. And we look after the team. I mean, everyone sits on a Herman Miller chair. You know, it's the best seating that you can ever think of. So looking after the team from even the surroundings that they work in, the beautiful ambience that we have in the office, plenty of car parking, to the facilities we provide them, I like to think is something that is most important, naturally, because your team is you. I mean, if your team is not happy and you don't have a motivated team, like Richard Branson guy that I met used to say, if you look after your team, they'll look after your customer, and if your customer is looked after, you know, your business thrives.
Okay, that's wonderful. That you have met Richard Branson personally.
Yeah, I spent 4 to 5 days with him in the Masai Mara, in his own resort. Actually, it was a very nice experience. You know, spending that 5 days actually with him and his wife Joanne, Joyce, and I. We just it was really eye opening.
Wonderful. And Aelian, now building a renowned brand, a global renowned brand, I think now doing more than 11 billion a year turnover. And looking back, what were the most important ingredients that you put into the business to make it a success story like that?
So building the right team has been key.
Okay.
You know, I mean, obviously having the right people in the right place has been really important for us. Knowing which markets to get into at the right time has been absolutely important. The fact that we went into Bangladesh about 22 years ago, Maldives about 20 years ago, has been key for us, because when you're in markets, particularly in the subcontinent, then you could have problems, whether it be political or everything else. You know, we had the civil war here, we had the Easter bombing, of course COVID hit the whole world. Having different markets to sort of sustain you when one market is dipping has been a really important factor for our growth. So
diversification in the markets.
Yes, diversification of markets, having the right product range, moving from industrial based marketing to completely retail based marketing as well as the industrial was a key aspect of our growth. When I started the company, I was only thinking of supplying the best wood coatings to the furniture market, you know, but to the industry. Okay. But when I introduced the water base in 1998, we thought we'll train all the painters in the country and introduce it to the retail market as well, and that way the turnover sort of shot up, you know, exponentially.
Wonderful. And Aelian, I think now you are talking about diversifying the markets, and JAT recently acquired Miratone, a company incorporated in New Zealand. So I think your investment was about 800 million rupees. So what is the main objective behind this acquisition in New Zealand?
Miratone is a fantastic story. If I'm to just give you a bit of a history, every year I used to take my furniture manufacturers out to Malaysia, to Singapore, to Thailand, to some of these exhibitions, you know, furniture exhibitions. And every year, one of the brands that really stood out was Miratone as the number one brand in that part of the world. You know, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Australia, they were number one. And it's a brand that I really looked up to. An Australian company formed in 1935, so a 90-year-old brand. I mean, fantastic product. Then they've of course opened their offices in New Zealand and so on. But like so many brands could face, you know, they had a bit of a difficulty that they faced in 2024. Right. So we were able to, you know, in the year 2020 alone, Miratone did something over $60 million just in Australia alone turnover. So it's a massive brand. And for us, you know, with this going from one generation to the other generation, when they had these issues, they made a huge investment in a factory in Australia in the year 2023 or 2022, I think it was. And then the whole COVID issue happened, that factory took time to really get started. They ran short of supplying their customers. So it was a bit of bad planning, transitioning from one generation to the other, that caused the company to have a few sort of go through a bad patch in Australia. New Zealand has been growing through all the time. So we were able, when I heard about that, and I reached out to the chairman of Miratone, and he was amicable of looking at us maybe acquiring the company. I was actually surprised. Those discussions went very well, and in a very short period of time, just 6 months since we started our negotiations to finishing all the due diligence, legal, financial, all those due diligence, our teams have been fantastic to get this done. So as the Miratone teams, I mean, we cooperated so well and got this investment done and dusted, and the acquisition completed in just 6 months. So for me, it was a brand that I always admired, a brand that I looked up to, and now to be its custodian and to own the brand is actually some to an extent surreal, you know.
That's a remarkable achievement, I guess.
Thank you.
And we have seen global companies come and take over local businesses, but for a Sri Lankan company to take over a company that is in a developed country, that is quite rare, I guess. And what made you think that you can be that bold?
Again, firstly, I always say, you know, God's played a big part in our life, giving us that courage to know that a Sri Lankan company can actually stand shoulder to shoulder with any international company, to think that we are the number one, say, partner for Select or Sherwin-Williams, their wood coating brand in the world, to know that we have a team that can undertake any challenge from our CEO downwards and really perform to that level. You know, Sri Lankans are very smart people, as you know. So if they are motivated and guided properly, we can just achieve anything. What we wanted was a brand, while JAT was very, very popular, or is very popular in this part of the world, the subcontinent and some parts of Africa. When I wanted to particularly look at India, Vietnam, you know, Australia, New Zealand, where in Australia already we're selling some JAT products, but in that part of the world, and then maybe looking at Europe and looking at North America and all that, having a brand from a more developed country and a 90-year-old heritage brand, we thought was fantastic. So in 2024, the board of directors of JAT approved a budget of 3 billion rupees to acquire either 100% or a major share of an international wood coating brand. Okay. And to be able to complete this acquisition in such a short time at 1/3 the price has been, or what we budgeted, has been remarkable.
Okay, so I think in that sense, maybe you have budget to acquire more. Do you have any other ideas in the pipeline? Any more acquisitions, any expansions that you have in the pipeline?
There are a lot of plans, but what we want to do is first to get this plan of maybe making this again number one in Australia, to expand the market in New Zealand, then look at the other regions, whether it be the Southeast Asian regions, you know. That will be a lot of efforts. In the first 2-3 years, it will be about growing the Miratone brand in these parts of the world. And then maybe we'll look at other acquisitions.
Okay, great. And Aelian, now JAT, as you mentioned, has a very strong global footprint across Asia, Africa, and even Australia, even prior to this acquisition. So can you tell us a little bit about your global operations in terms of the product portfolio and the scale and the prospects? How do you look at these different markets? How is your product portfolio? Is it different, or how is it?
So in most of the foreign markets, it's either the wood coatings or the wood coatings and the kitchens and the furnishing. So in Australia right now in Perth, we have our Seaform brand of kitchens that we opened this company about 3 years ago. And recently, about a year ago, we also bought another furniture cabinetry workshop there, which can do the local product as well. So for us, the furnishing angle in Australia was very, very important. The fact that we were selling some wood coatings into Australia already under the JAT brand was very important for us, and a huge market that we thought we can break into. But having the Miratone brand is incredible, because we have now the strongest brand, and with our service and our technical support that we can provide, production also can be done either in New Zealand or in Sri Lanka for those markets. So
you have the production facility in both countries?
Yes. So in New Zealand, we acquired the company with the production, with a factory, full team. I mean, that system there that we have is fantastic. Not much of change needs to happen there. We have to just only introduce some of our exterior products, because in New Zealand, what they're doing is what we started doing. That's only the industrial market. Whereas the decorative market, that is for the houses, most of the houses they have there is either timber, panel walls outside. So, or they have cementatious boards, but it looks like timber paneling. And to that market, if we can introduce exterior water base, that will increase our turnover tremendously. So that's our first plan, to get into the retail sector. As much as we are strong in the industrial sector, get into the retail sector as well.
Okay, I think there's a lot of potential in that segment.
Absolutely.
And what countries are more promising, as you see, Aelian? Now, you are already in a few foreign markets. And in terms of the existing markets, what is more promising, and what do you envision to go into? What are the markets that you want to be in the future?
So, if you look at the existing markets, if you look at Bangladesh, for example, Bangladesh, through the issues they had in the last year, from August till maybe August this year, it was one of our markets that was growing tremendously, and then it took us a slight dip, but now the market is recovering. In February next year, 2026, they'll have the elections and they'll have a stable government in place, other than this caretaker government. So we'll see Bangladesh as absolutely booming market. It'll continue that same trend that it had before, hopefully. Again, we are building our teams there. We've built our resin manufacturing in Bangladesh, factories to producing our wood coatings in Bangladesh. We've hired some very good people to the company there, and that will really make sure that we are able to achieve great results in the Bangladesh market. Maldives, we have just appointed a new distributor who will take our turnover to greater heights in the next few months and years. Maldives will grow. Kenya, we've got in a few years ago, and then with Kenya growing, then we'll look at neighboring East African countries, and then of course Australia, like I said, and New Zealand will be the new markets. Plus, with Miratone, we want to go into the Indian market again and really make a presence in the Indian market, and we are confident that will really add some serious numbers to our top line and bottom line. We're taking Miratone to India.
That's the largest population country.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is in terms of the market. So what about the product portfolio? What you have any diversifications in that?
Yeah, so JAT itself will focus on the wood coatings when you are talking about the foreign markets. In Sri Lanka, as you know, we do the decorative paints as well, the emulsions, the exterior emulsion, interior emulsions. We have JAT has EV charging under the Volt Charge brand. We have our furnishing line. So those will also be different product ranges that we can introduce into this market. Like I said, in Bangladesh and in Australia, we already have the furnishing going. So we're talking to somebody in Africa to take the furnishing line as well, and maybe in Nepal to introduce our EV charging business. So Sri Lanka, is where the biggest EV charging supplier in the country at the moment. You
are the market leader.
We are the market leader, having the most number of EV fast charging stations in the country. And even the domestic chargers, we have over, I believe, about 4,000 to 5,000 domestic chargers now supplied to the Sri Lankan market. So it's a technology that we created. We developed the product and the software to go with it. So excellent range of product. and came in at the right time because car imports opened up.
Yes.
So it was
And now
perfect
it's
timing.
a lot of
Electric
EV vehicles in
cars
the
coming into the market.
Yes, and that all that sounds very exciting. So if you look back and if you look at the headwinds or the challenges, what do you think in the near future? Let's say about next 3 to 5 years. What kind of challenges you foresee for JAT Holdings?
Like in any business, obviously, every business will face its challenges, whether it be political, whether it be competition, whether it be in Sri Lanka, the depreciation of the rupee, political issues, environmental issues, and so on. But one thing with JAT is we've been so resilient over the last 32 years, going through some of, I think, the most difficult times in Sri Lankan history and in this part of the world. Whether Nepal had an issue, as you know, a few months ago, Bangladesh had their issues, we had the Easter bombings and everything else. So I can't even imagine that times will be harder than this. So we are looking at the future in a lot more rosier kind of manner. Having said that, well, I think we are spread out well enough, territorial wise and product wise, to be able to manage any challenge. And our strategic teams are fantastic that way, in order to foresee whatever the minor challenges that could be an issue. Say, for an example, for us, wood coatings is a big industry. So if wood is replaced with some other product, then how does that happen? So we're introducing this new coating line. You asked me about new products. We're introducing this new coating line which could be applied on wood, cement, tin, steel, plastic, anything. And it will be the only product that can give you 10 degrees reduction in the temperature of the building. So it's a fantastic new technology that is coming out. It's a Japanese technology which we've signed up with, and when that so you'll hear about these stories very soon.
That's very exciting. And Aelian, now overall, when you look at it, what would be the next frontier for JAT Holdings? Like the next big thing, what you want, what you envision it to become? What is your ultimate plan for JAT?
So the fact that we wanted it to be a truly international company, now I believe with the acquisition of Miratone, we have achieved that. To be number one in most markets that we are in, we've achieved certainly Bangladesh, Maldives and Sri Lanka being number one. If we are now we are number one also in New Zealand with the acquisition of Miratone. So if you can be number one in Australia and some of the neighboring countries, that will be great, and we can slowly build up in India. That will be fantastic. But for us, I always jokingly mention the fact that if I started JAT in, say, the US or in most of the countries, that we would have been a billion-dollar company today, the amount of effort we put into company. But now going international and maybe doing a listing in another exchange somewhere else could be some worth looking at. More acquisitions for the company, and then seeing also the new generations coming in. The kids are involved with the business, so how they will sort of merge into the business, and then the business sort of making sure what happened to Miratone doesn't happen with JAT, that it goes from the first to the second to the third generation, and the only way you can do that is doing it the way we have done it. The fact that we listed, the fact that we have a professionally run management team, keeping the family separate from day-to-day sort of running of the business. Those are very important factors. This is the only way that we can see long-term growth for the company, and then in 10 years, in 2035, to celebrate a 100-year brand. Imagine having Miratone as a 100-year-old brand. Very few companies have achieved that in the world. We will have that pride to be able to hold a 100-year-old brand as well.
And it's very interesting that you touched upon the next generation, or moving into the transitioning to the next generation to the business. So you founded JAT. and you're the first generation, and it has been about more than 30 years. So when it comes to the transition or building the next generation of leadership, of how exactly you're planning that?
If you take the family, because are all educated and they understand their place when it comes to JAT in their place on the board, their place on that kind of hierarchy. They individually also run other businesses for us as a family. We run our real estate side, we have our mining side and so on. So they run those businesses as well. So the family is really involved on a day-to-day basis with running some of the other companies that we have, associate companies, but not under the JAT Holdings listed company umbrella. But that gives them the experience and the confidence to be able to come in at any time. We need them to come into JAT Holdings as well, other than being on the board if they need to come and step in at any point in the future. But just the confidence and the feel of knowing how to run a company and how to manage people and how to face challenges is very, very important for that next generation.
I believe they are learning from the best.
Thank you.
And you're grooming the next generation of JAT. I believe then the future of JAT is in safe hands as well.
Absolutely. And the fact that they are all God-fearing, humble children is also very, very important for us. It is important that we have our feet on the ground, that we don't lose the sense of reality, as it were, and know that nothing comes easy in life. You got to work hard towards it, and they all been groomed in that manner.
Absolutely, wonderful. And last but not least, Aelian, what is your final message to the shareholders of JAT?
Firstly, we are extremely thankful for the belief that they have in me personally and the belief they have in the company. The one thing I keep telling our shareholders is we wouldn't give promises that are not attainable. So every promise we gave our shareholders from the time we listed to today, we've exceeded. We achieved much faster at a cheaper price and made it a real success. Whether it was introducing the White by JAT, whether it was putting our R&D centers, getting our production out in Bangladesh, moving into Africa. This new acquisition is not something we even had promised them, but we've achieved it. Yes. So everything we have planned, we will achieve. We have assured our shareholders that in 2027-28 we'll do a 3 billion rupee bottom line, and we will achieve that as well. So paying them the promised dividend and running a company with the right ethics, right corporate governance, and being a company that is looked up to and not anything else.
Wonderful, that's absolutely fantastic. And I personally wish you all the very best with JAT, Aelian, for the upcoming projects that you have. And thank you very much for joining with Ambeon Insights. I think our shareholders, our viewers, our listeners have gained much more insights about JAT Holdings, its future, and also about the man behind JAT. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Didisha. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the effort to come out and conduct this interview. I really appreciate the support that Ambeon has also shown in our company, and you personally, you've always supported us wherever you've been, and I wish you all the very best too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching Ambeon Insights, and we will be back soon with another exciting episode.